Thank you so much for coming out on a Sunday afternoon, and I just want to thank the Sewanee community and staff for creating such a communal, welcoming place. I'm so grateful to be here. So I'm going to read from my new novel, still in progress, but close. It takes place partially in the Sonoran Desert, but mostly on an island in southeast Alaska, where a beloved tree species, yellow cedar, is dying off due to warming winters. There are 5 main characters, one of whom is an unfinished form, a baby that comes out too early, also known as a miscarriage, who at some point is given the name Lux. There are also a handful of secondary characters: yellow cedar, saguaro cactus, otter, bear, salmon. One of the book's central questions is, what happens when you let go of form? So I'm going to read from one of Lux's early sections, not long after they've been birthed and deposited in the desert. And then I'll read from one of the secondary characters. So all that you need to know is that Lux can fragment. It's like falling. They fall and wake up somewhere they've been before. The desert crackled by day, sighed by night. The Milky Way wheeled above. Nearby was a very tall cactus with arms enough to envy. I wanted those arms to pick me up, hold me. All the creatures loved this cactus. Saguaro, mother, not mother. They crawled into her ridges and valleys, flew into her heart chamber. I could not reach her. I had no talon or feather or wing, or no paw, no claw. Who was I? Not her seed, nor her fruit. The desert was once a sea, the cactus said, pointing to stubby-leafed plants that had once been urchins, kelp, coral. I too lived in the sea once, I said. This cactus listened, gave shade and shelter and home, fed them all her blood-red fruit at the hottest, driest swell of summer. I wondered, what did I have to offer? Your light, she whispered. You offer your light. An animal the color of desert soil came, with wide ears, hoofed feet, gentle eyes. Deer. The sky dimmed, pieces of cold light fell. The cactus grew bigger and brighter in the rain. When the deer walked on, I counted 1, 2, 3, 4 legs. How lucky. The rain formed a small pool around me. I smelled salt, blood. I fell then, for the first time. When I woke, I was where I had begun, inside my mother. My hunger was a clawing, but I tried to be gentle, like the deer. She, however, was not gentle. She thrashed, and her limbs about and slipped with sweat. The movement was too big for her body, too big for me. I gave off my light, as the saguaro cactus had told me to do. Hello, look, here. She put her hand to her shoulder. No, then to her thigh. No, then to her throat. No, here, here. But her hands waved and blurred. Her body leapt and stretched and spun. She did not feel me. When I fell, I woke again to a circle of dry stones, a blinding round sun. What opened next was the sky. The clouds became a chorus of cold, and from them came the rain. A rivulet crawled thinly, calling out to itself, gathering, finding speed in the arroyos, thickening with froth and foam. The water pressed me against mineral, slake, stone. I smelled the inside, salty, briny, like flesh, egg, breath. The rabbit said, hold on. The spider said, hold on. I held on. I heard soft and slippery voices. Ending, beginning, beginning, ending, ending, beginning. The voices came from far away, from the small bodies of fish, forming in pouches of albumin in the rock nests of stream beds. Their power lay in numbers, not merely one, but hundreds of thousands of chances to continue. I wanted one. I let go. So now I'm going to read from one of the secondary voices in the story. This is one of the most important species in southeast coastal Alaska, the salmon. She doesn't want to go. You have to go, he says. His forehead is still shiny, but now bulkier than it's ever been before. He leaves his mouth open after he says this. If flies could swim, he would never go hungry, she thinks. He is ahead of her already, but he circles back to make sure she is there, behind him. Keep coming, he said. You can't just not do this. Leave me alone, she thinks. I can do what I want. Once, when they were younger, she said something similar, then nearly choked on a flotilla of tiny colors, seeds, but not seeds. They were racing through some warm water currents, and he said, You stick close, girl. But she flashed him a look. I do what I want. She'd already spotted the blob, all color and juice and glory. He started gyrating in the distance. The dude had some moves, but she didn't know what the hell that sorry-ass display meant. Don't worry, I'll save you some, she said, opening her mouth to scoop up that cosmic jello. But bam, there he was, slapping up against her, pushing her away from the blob. Shit, that dude was fast. Probably saved her life, though. Now, he isn't so fast. They are near the mouth, the smell of familiar, the smell of beginning. She remembers this. She's followed him this far, though, just to shut him up. Above, the gulls are screaming. The water narrowing over the rocks makes its own torturous sound. No thanks, she says, turns back toward the sea. Don't even think about it, he says. It's futile. But she is not thinking. She is just stubborn. She lets the current drift her back toward the bigness. The terror of this plan is like a hook in the cheek, or how she imagines that hook, at least. Again, he comes after her, ducks them into an eddy. She takes him in, weary, his skin sagging and stretched, as if he's just come from a fight. No way he can keep coming after her. A sound emerges from him, long and round and soft. What did you say? Again the sound comes, and she squints to listen harder. Just then, the whole river bottom shakes, a shadow passes over them, and a titanic splash erupts a few feet away. She glances up to see a giant paw eclipse the sky. Go, now, he says. She pushes out from the eddy and labors up the narrows. Looking back, she finds him wriggling slowly up the shallow stream. Safe. Her glide is different now. She feels it. A revolution inside. A turn. They go farther upstream and stick to some rocks. She decides she can leave him in a deeper pool to rest, then once and for all get the hell out of there, head back to the big place. That's what she's thinking. That's what she's wanting. But there in the shallows, something heaves inside her, and she feels again the turning. Her body presses into the rock, and the turn comes out of her, and it is many, and the many are the color of the late evening, and she can hardly breathe, and the rocks go soft, and the water gets warm, and she is spent. She hears him. You did it, girl. You did it. His body quivers, and his gills slow, and his eyes turn the color of milk. Soon he is barely moving, and neither is she, and she tries to say something. Goodbye? But when her mouth opens, no sound comes, and she remembers the vast darkness and the beautiful sea, and she is climbing a tree now toward the sky, and her eyes become clouds, and there is nothing to resist because she is there. Thank you. So next we have Andrea Jurjević.
I love coming to stage and taking something off. It's always kind of feels so, I don't know, feels appropriate. I'm going to read, thank you for coming out and thank you for having me. I will use these 10 minutes or less. Oops. I need to control my breathing. By reading from my newest book, In Another Country, which came out in March from Saturnalia Press. And I will read 4 poems for each of the 4 months she's been around. The opening poem is titled Nastic Movements. Nastic, I learned this as I wrote the poem, means when plants, flowers open up to sunlight and then they close at night. Sweetness. Back home, the Adriatic tightens around the shore like a snake around the hot rock. In each house on the island, there's a table. On every table, a loaf, round as a Slavic face. Ashes in the oven. Ashes on the domes of the bread. Ashes on the roof of one's mouth. Last year, my cousin offed himself in his home. Our family, scattered around the world, got caught in a phone web. Catching up with each other, we forgot his body. Things were funny. Phone in hand, someone picked her nose and pulled out a bloody fingernail. Another drew a tough, tar-black hair from between her teeth, a pubic curl, and wondered whose it was. Listen, in Sarajevo, the fit ones ran through the sniper alley. The rest took up dying. Longing is a trick, baby. Go inside a rock, a ringtone, the red coal of my tongue, and you'll only taste yourself. Babe, keep the curtains parted. See the moon tossing her long white hair across the ocean. Hear its steady back-arcing roar. Look at the chenilled strip of black sand, that fool walking with a flashlight. Listen to the ocean, and you'll come apart like a love letter in rain. Sweetness, even dandelions lose their heads at night. So a few days ago was the 29th anniversary of the Srebrenica genocide, which took place on the 13th of July, 1995. And I read in the news just a few days ago, this was, if you don't know, 8,000 Bosnian Muslim boys and men were slaughtered at the time. And to this day, they're still looking for remains of some of the bodies so they could get proper burial. And just a few days ago, they discovered 14 more. So it keeps going. I wrote this on the 25th anniversary, and in particular had in mind people who were trying to escape the genocide and running into the mountains. According to records, this was the largest recognized genocide in Europe since World War II. It's called Personal Effects. Decades later, the dirt is still sifted in search of folks who failed to escape the beatings. Bulldozers pushing their emaciated bodies into ditches. Those who couldn't flee their own neighbors, cleansing their land of outsiders, the prey. At first, the ground gave clothed skeletons, a rare pair of feet, still in socks, toes and all. Then clothing, a sky blue tracksuit, dirt black scraps of home-knit sweaters, ransacked bags, a Quran, the wind flapping its pages, perhaps a toothbrush, a medical card, a rusted Swiss knife, a photo of a man with a clear face, a shoe half sunk in dirt, ants crawling over it, a spoon, a shirt placket, ligatures caked with mud, scraped blindfolds all across the valley between the hillside pastures, their lime-white farmhouses, and into the woods where as kids they used to play, where they knew every tree, the narrow path where they were hunted down. There might still be a lighter, a jaw bright with moss, a rib, a phalanx. It's difficult to find skulls these days, to stop combing the forest floor, to let go of crumbs of clay. Some say it's even harder to dig oneself out of the country, erasing itself. Black Daisies. A little epigraph by Charles Baudelaire. It's time to get drunk. We're inside the barrel of a heat wave, this abstinent American and I. The earth, the sky, the strange Nevada sun blazing in between. A tattooed river courses up his pale forearm, and a mustached koi threads upstream, the fish rendered separate from its world. Across the table, hopeless Jack slings ice cubes down the canyon of his mouth, crushes them with a metallic tang, says, "I've been sober for over a decade and I still can't sit still." The roof vent exhales a steamy breath. The sun glares out through the ground. I've spent my life in badly lit rooms, and the only thing this brightness reminds me of is my cousin kneeling in the wooden confessional in front of the delirious light of God pouring in through the latticed partition, and him letting out a loud, wet fart. It's sitting in light we can't do. The heat is just a bitter oleander, desert thrift, a clod of dirt you're starting to feel like, and there is nothing you can do about it but wish for a spit of rain. Though now I want a narrow vase with black daisies before me. Not a lush flower bed or a shadowy bank pearled with dew, just a spray of black daisies curving like script over uncomplaining earth, or crotch hair, shy curling into its own heat. Little wicks drawing fuel to the flame. I want a wet, light-absorbing language, a crawling, heat-converting argot, and I want to drink it like liquor. And the final poem is Chromatics of Touch. At the end of touch, there is a bright winter, acid green pines, the splayed wings of branches, waxy filaments cancelled by fresh snow, as crisp and white as bows on a butcher's apron. A wheel of wind spins through a roulette turned by an invisible hand, rouses the woods into a snow riot, a call of disorder. What is happening in this bed? A kneeling, your opiate steady grip pulling my hair, our contours shifting into entanglements worthy of multiple bodies, and just like that, I'm every one of the 3 women in Fuseli Symplegma, suffering pleasure. An arrangement that resists the static of grief, your release into the darkness of my womb, that demolished room, pipes scraped, night and gravity in its place. And now, Huiting Pan.
Hello. I'm reading a short chapter from a second novel I'm working on. It's a dialogue between 2 lovers. The narrator is a fantasy, Morpheus, Sandman-like character, and he's weaving dreams for his beloved. Okay, so as you can see, it's from chapter 11. After that, I wove many dreams for you. I hid them in bouquets, in the span of a petal falling through the air, on the glint of moonlight on water. Moonlight and flowers, the ingredients of a romance. These dreams cannot be replayed. No petal falls twice the same way, and the flash of moonlight too fleeting to convey anything more than an impression. But sometimes, that's exactly what I want to show. Impressions, distinct, sublime. A whispered name feathering my cheek, the touch of your fingers sleepwalking all over my skin. If I gave you a locket for each dream, you could have worn a different one every day for a year and still have lockets left over. Knit me a story, you say, not the little islands of reality we happen to wash up on, but the boundless cyberspace. Not the straitjacket of myself, but sweaters I can put on and discard. Let me shelter under the tent of a magic show, where people go to enjoy themselves with no thoughts of reality. I ask, what kind of stories you would like me to tell? You decide, you said. So I spun dreams of all the things we had experienced. You're a secret agent. I'm your fixer who grew up in the wastelands. You appear to be a high-level executive in the Enclave, but you're really part of the organization working towards overthrowing the dynasty. The monarchs have lost their way. Technology that's supposed to liberate has been used instead to enslave. The masses ache out their survival amidst the poison done by the industrialists in the wastelands, while the industrialists hold themselves up in their enclaves. You're the fifth princess. I'm the general. Unlike the other concubines, your mother kept her head low, never harmed anyone. Yet, your father poisoned her. When he arranged for you to be given to the king of the neighboring land who was known for strangling his wives, you decide to take fate into your own hands. You wielded me like a sword against your father, then your brothers, until you sat on the throne. You're the detective, I'm the fugitive. I'm the demon, you're the huntress. You're the wind, coming and going as you please. I'm the grain of sand, blown about through the world. Later, I realized these stories were facades, the shield behind which you concealed yourself. You lived your life as reenactment, retracing the steps of countless others who had gone before you. Tell me something epic, you say. Or, I want a thriller. And I, master of reenactments, would oblige. As I narrate, certain things are now becoming clear to me. That reenactments, far from being lifeless simulations, are actually extensions of life. What I thought to be mere entertainment is actually an enhancement. For in your world, the real and the simulacrum have become continuous. All these are pointing to an uncomfortable truth. I had followed the boar of Yan, thinking it would lead me to where I desired, that the narrative thread was a way of tying us together. Now, I'm almost afraid of what I'll find awaiting me at the end. But what can I do but continue? I can no longer speak to you except through this body of words. It's quite daunting if you think about it, building a body with only words. How do I construct a convincing facsimile that I may be reincarnated for you? To stop is to cease. I have no choice but to keep speaking. Delay the inevitable. Keep the narrative in suspense. To stop is to cease. Thank you. Next up is Marley Williams.